All right, let's jump right in. We're looking at the very end of Zechariah chapter 14, and these verses are just packed with drama. This isn't just about some big battle, it's about what the world looks like after the dust settles. It's a vision of a world completely remade. So, the huge question these last verses tackle is this. After the final prophesied war for Jerusalem is over, what's left? What does the world actually look like? Well, Zechariah gives us a picture of this profound transformation. And it all starts with a very swift and very final divine judgment. So, first things first, verses 12 through 15 zoom right in on the immediate aftermath for all those armies that gathered to fight against Jerusalem. And let me tell you, the consequences are laid out in some seriously graphic detail. Wow, the prophecy opens with this incredibly intense and grim picture of a divine plague. Just try to imagine that for a second. An entire army, still standing, still holding their weapons, but literally rotting away where they stand. It's such a powerful image of divine power just completely neutralizing human military might. Now, what's really interesting is how people have looked at this over the years. Is this a literal physical plague? Some kind of disease or famine that causes the body to waste away? Or is it maybe symbolic, a kind of spiritual plague, where their eyes consuming away means they're blind to the truth, and their tongues consuming away means their words are just useless, delusional babble? And it doesn't stop with the plague. Verse 13 adds another layer. God sends what's called a great tumult, basically pure chaos, right into the middle of the enemy armies. This isn't just something attacking them from the outside, it's a complete internal collapse, panic, confusion. They actually start fighting and killing each other. And this destruction, it's total. Verse 15 makes it crystal clear that the plague doesn't just hit the soldiers, it hits their animals too. The horses, the mules, the camels. You have to remember, in ancient warfare, these animals were the war machine. They were the tanks, the supply trucks, the whole shebang. The commentary gives this really great modern-day picture for this. Imagine a whole division of state-of-the-art tanks, and they all drive straight into a soft, muddy field. Suddenly, all that power, all that technology, it means nothing. They're just stuck, completely useless. They become sitting ducks. That's the kind of complete shutdown of military power that Zechariah is describing here. Okay, so after that intense scene of judgment, the whole focus of the prophecy shifts. We move from disruption to the survivors, and what we see is a brand new world order being set up. Verses 16 through 19 lay out a new, non-negotiable requirement for every nation that's left. So for every surviving nation, verse 16 gives them a new job, you could say. It's a clear three-part command. First, they have to travel to Jerusalem every single year. Second, they have to worship the one true King, the Lord of hosts. And third, they have to celebrate a specific holiday, the Feast of Tabernacles. And this isn't a suggestion, it's a mandate. But why that particular feast? Well, the Feast of Tabernacles is a huge deal. It's a festival all about celebrating how God provided for his people when they were wandering in the desert. It's also about recognizing his ultimate kingship over everything. So it's a celebration of dependence and thankfulness, which feels like a pretty fitting thing to require of the world's nations in this new age. And, of course, what happens if you don't follow the rules? Well, verses 17 to 19 spell that out pretty clearly. For any nation that decides not to show up and worship, the punishment is no rain, which is a massive symbol of blessing being withheld. Then, the prophecy specifically calls out Egypt. Now, Egypt doesn't really rely on rain. It relies on the Nile. So for them, there will be a specific plague, which is a clear callback to the plagues in Exodus and a powerful reminder of God's total authority. All right, now we get to the final, incredible vision in verses 20 and 21. And this goes way beyond just judgment and worship. This is about the complete reconsecration of everything. Get this, because this is absolutely radical. That phrase, holiness unto the Lord, was originally written on one thing and one thing only, the golden plate on the forehead of the high priest, the holiest person in the holiest place on the holiest day. And now Zechariah says you're going to find that phrase on something as common and ordinary as the little bells on a horse's harness. And it doesn't even stop there. The vision just keeps pushing this idea. Verse 21 says that every single cooking pot in the land will also be considered holy to the Lord. This is really the big finale of the vision. The line between what's sacred and what's secular, between the temple and your kitchen, that line just vanishes. I mean, really think about what this means. Your regular old cooking pot is now just as holy as the special bowls used for sacrifices right at the temple altar. In this new world, all of life, making dinner, riding your horse, it all becomes an act of worship. The whole city basically becomes the temple. And then we get the final line of the chapter, which wraps everything up. In this context, the word Canaanite most likely means a trader or a merchant, the kind of people who had been profaning the temple by doing business there. So this last line is a promise of absolute purity. Nothing unclean, nothing profane will be left in God's house, which, as we've just seen, has now expanded to cover all of life. So, Zechariah's vision leaves us with this incredible idea to chew on. It paints a picture of a world where holiness isn't locked away in a special building for a special day, but it fills up every part of life. And it kind of makes you wonder, right? If something as ordinary and mundane as a cooking pot can be made holy, what does that say about the potential for holiness in our own common everyday lives?